Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from thousands of successful individuals from around the world. I'm your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm delighted to welcome a very, very accomplished professional person from the world of academia who's been with us earlier from Arkansas, USA, Professor Raj R Rao. Raj, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Ashutosh.
Professor Rao is a professor of biomechanical engineering at the College of Engineering, University of Arkansas, Fayetteville. He's an expert in stem cells, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. And he's contributed to 60 plus journal articles, book chapters, and conference proceedings, 100 plus conference abstracts, and 80 plus invited lectures. So, Raj, we've already had a lot of discussion with you earlier, and I thought today we're going to talk only about stem cells because a lot of our users have been saying, listeners have been saying, what are stem cells? So let me start by asking this basic question. What are stem cells and why are they important for medical research?
Again, thank you, Ashutosh, for having me in this conversation. So broadly speaking, when we talk about stem cells, they have two unique properties that make them very interesting cells that exist within our bodies. One is the ability to self-renew, which means they can make more of themselves. And the other is the ability to make other cell types, which is a process called differentiation, which means then that so they have the potential to form different cell types that constitute the human body. The human body has got close to 220 different cell types. Mm-hmm. It's really interesting and fascinating to even think about that they all act together to constitute this whole system that functions on a daily basis for us. Mm-hmm. But what we need to know more about is the fact that within each of the different tissues and organs, we actually have resident stem cells that exist. Mm-hmm. and they contribute to the process of replacing lost cells or lost tissues. They contribute to the process of regeneration when there is a need for repair that needs to happen. Mm-hmm. So broadly speaking, again, stem cells, I'll go later about different classifications of stem cells, but broadly speaking, they can make more of themselves. They can differentiate into specialized cell types.
And, you mentioned there are 220 different types of cells in our body. Are there multiple types of stem cells and how do they differ?
Exactly. Yeah, that's very important to note. Yes, in fact, pretty much every tissue has got its own unique stem cell type. Mm-hmm. So within our, so if you look at some broad classifications that's out there in the literature, mm-hmm. We talk about, I think, embryonic stem cells has gained a lot of attention. Adult stem cells has gained a lot of attention. Mm-hmm. So when we say adult, even a one-day-old baby from a stem cell standpoint is an adult. Okay. So the reality is that every tissue within our body has got its own stem cell. Just as an example, skin is a classic example of something that we lose a lot every day, but it also gets replaced a lot every day. That is because the presence of these skin stem cells that exist within the skin that form new skin epithelial cells every day. And the other important thing to note is that stem cells, at least that reside within our bodies, behave better when we are young. Mm-hmm. As we age, the potential of these stem cells to contribute to regeneration repair goes down a bit. There's a greater chance that the wound will heal very quickly, right? And we all go through scrapes and bruises. But when you age and you fall down and you have a cut, it takes a lot more time to heal. That again is a nice correlation between potential of stem cells and aging. Embryonic stem cells, for that matter, that are formed few days after fertilization, are called master stem cells, so to say, because they are the ones from where all cell types in the human body actually arise. So that is I've been working with all classes of stem cells over the past 20 years. And it's really fascinating to note the similarities and differences between these different cell types, the potential of some of these Some of them have more potential, some of them have less potential. And again, we'll come across these definitions like pluripotent, multipotent, unipotent, so on. So that defines a potency.
And why is it that everyone seems to believe that stem cells have the answer to all kinds of complex medical problems?
Right. So again, the reality is that, people are obviously fascinated by science, by the potential of stem cells. Like any new technology, there is always this hype, so to say, that comes up. Okay. But the reality is that there's a lot of R&D that still needs to be done. Stem cells have an enormous potential. And again, I think we are moving forward to this era of personalized medicine and precision medicine. And the ability to use your own cells to contribute to repair regeneration is really fascinating. And that also, in some ways, allows us to, to take care of ourselves, so to say, to empower ourselves, and to do things in a manner where we can develop therapies that is personalized, that allows us to develop treatments using our own body parts, so to say, or using our own cells. So that's where stem cells really come in.
Fascinating. There's also, when I was trying to prepare for my conversation with you, I was doing a little bit of reading. How are stem cells collected and stored? And are there any ethical considerations surrounding their use?
So that question is it depends on what type of stem cell we talk about, right? So again, as I said, there are so many different classifications of stem cells. So broadly, we talk about embryonic stem cells, which are classified as pluripotent stem cells, which means that they have the potential to contribute to all cell types of the human body. Within the adult system, we have, cells like neural stem cells that reside in our brain. I spoke about skin stem cells. We also have something called hematopoietic stem cells that reside in our bone marrow. And that is one that actually has had clinical applications for quite some time in the process of bone marrow transplantation, in the context of treatment of different blood-related cancers. So when you talk about collection, so if you talk about the bone marrow, for example, you literally have to extract those cells from the bone marrow and use that to transplant it to another patient. Another class of stem cells that people are extracting a lot, so to say, are adipose stem cells. So the reality is that the human population, there's a lot of obesity that exists due to our lifestyle choices, and because of which we do have a lot of accumulation of adipose tissues within our body. But within those adipose tissues, you have these adipose stem cells. So a lot of researchers and clinicians have figured out ways to extract fat cells, and then in a dish, you can isolate those stem cells. Now, from an ethical standpoint, obviously, it depends on, the use of it, right? The potential for it. How are you going to use it in a manner that benefits, and more importantly, that is based on sound science. I think the biggest challenge for the stem cell field is the fact that there have been this mushrooming of different stem cell clinics across the world that really, for lack of a better word, are selling snake oil. We have to be very careful about, using some of these products that are out there that are not based on sound science. So that's a big ethical problem for the field as well. And so there's a lot of rules and regulations, policies that have been put in place to ensure that patients are not impacted negatively because again, patients are looking for treatments that work for them, right? And it's unfair when there are certain bad actors that establish these clinics and actually lure patients in with the hope, but the reality is that they don't contribute to those treatments.
So then, from the perspective of a patient or a customer, if I can use that term, how do they determine which is the right place to go to?
Right. Now that's very important. So again, I think gathering information is very important, and the reality is that I think we have a lot of information about every type of treatment, on different sources. WebMD is a fantastic source. Again, that's just one source that I talk about.
Yeah.
But one of the things is always to ask questions. When you go to your doctor, ask questions about, what is this type of stem cell? Is this FDA approved? Has this gone through clinical trials? Has this been, show me the papers. Again, I think the idea really is to ask questions about any new treatment option that is available, right? And also ask about the source of the cells, because in some cases the clinician might say that we're going to go with an autologous approach, which means they will say that we're going to extract cells from your body and put it back into your body in a different place, which is okay, because I think those kinds of treatments, there have been some studies that have shown that autologous stem cell therapies do work, especially in the context of orthopedic and musculoskeletal diseases, and I think that's shown to work because of the nature of the cells themselves. And again, it's using your own cells to contribute regeneration in other parts. So I think it's just about asking those questions is very important.
Okay, well said. And the other question, Raj, that I have is that how does one determine that if I am taking someone else's stem cells, how will my immune system react to it? And what implications does this have for use in medical treatment?
Right. No, that's a very, very important question you asked, Ashutosh. Again, the immune system serves a purpose, right? It is there within our bodies to ensure that anything foreign is looked at carefully, right? In some ways.
Correct.
So as you rightly asked, how will the immune system behave if you were to put someone else's cells into your body, right? So the immune system will obviously look at it very carefully and say, like, is this something that I need in my body? What is it doing out here? So I think one of the things that's evolved is a field called immune engineering. How do we actually engineer our cells to ensure that they are not attacked by the immune system, so to say? It's still a field that's rapidly evolving. There's a lot of exciting findings that are coming out, and so I think that's one of the things that needs to be done. How do you ensure that if you were to put someone else's cells into your body, they are not going to be rejected by the immune system? And I think just this immune modulation of the surface of the cells will ensure that they are not going to be attacked by the immune system.
Amazing. My next question is that, how has the field of stem cell research evolved over time? And what are some of the major breakthroughs or milestones that have been particularly significant?
Right. So I think if you were to go back in time, one of the earliest stem cells identified were the hematopoietic stem cells. Atomic and nuclear bomb testing, so to say, they found out that many of the residents in those areas, or even the people working with those, started developing cancers, and they, especially related to the blood, and through that they were able to identify these hematopoietic stem cells. But they also recognize those hematopoietic stem cells have the potential to form new blood cells and new immune cells as well. And this was in the 1960s. And then they started using those in the context of bone marrow transplantation. And then after that, we started identifying these other types of cells. Primarily, they were classified as mesenchymal stem cells, and they were identified from other tissue types within the body, like bone, cartilage, fat, etc. And they were also found to have multipotent capabilities of forming bone cells or cartilage cells or tendon cells, so on and so forth. Then later, the most exciting thing that happened, for at least in the context of human biomedical research, was in 1998, when researchers at the University of Wisconsin were able to isolate human embryonic stem cells and grow them in a dish.
Wow.
That was a master stem cell. So that happened in 1998. I started working with human embryonic stem cells in 2001, just 3 years after that. So but human embryonic stem cells, which are classified as pluripotent stem cells, have the unique potential to grow indefinitely in culture. So you can actually grow them forever in culture under certain conditions. And you can also differentiate them into multiple cell types. And that is the beauty of it. But the challenge is also, because they can differentiate into multiple cell types, how do you ensure that you get only your cell type of interest, right? So for example, if you talk about Parkinson's disease, the focus is on generating neurons that can produce dopamine. Okay. So in your culture system, if your goal is to produce only dopaminergic neurons, you have to ensure that you don't get heart cells within or muscle cells within, because you don't want to be putting other types of cells into the brain. So that's a process called directed differentiation. How do you ensure that you can take this master stem cell and produce this produce your cell type of interest? Another last exciting development that happened in the field was in 2007, I want to say. Shinya Yamanaka in Japan created something called induced pluripotent stem cells. Now, that was a major development for the stem cell research field. Basically, what he did was that he took adult cells, adult cells like fibroblasts, skin cells, and turned the clock back on those cells by addition of very specific factors and created embryonic-like cells. So basically, each one of us could have our own master stem cell in a dish.
Wow.
That was revolutionary, so to say. And in fact, just 5 years later, he was awarded the Nobel Prize, indicating the significance of that work that happened. So we've done a fair bit of work with iPS cells, which we call them, where again, you can take your own adult cell and so through a process called reprogramming, turn the clock back on those cells to create embryonic-like stem cells, and then from which you can create neurons, you can create muscles, you can create blood, you can create any cell type you want.
Wow. A lot of it is something that I'm trying to grapple and understand, but what you're saying seems to be actually at an amazing kind of cutting edge of science technology. But a stupid question for you: what if I'm able to get my own embryonic cell? What can it be used to cure me?
Correct. So again, we have to understand that iPS cells are not embryonic stem cells. They are embryonic-like stem cells because of the fact that they also end up having those pluripotent capabilities of forming different cell types. So let's say if I were to take your adult cell, reprogram those cells and create those iPS cells. Now I have your own master stem cell. Now I have different processes in place in the lab from where that I can use to produce, let's say, for example, if you have, let's say, you need to,
I'm
prepare a bone.
diabetic, right?
Diabetic, exactly. Okay, let's talk about diabetes. So in the context of diabetes, what's really happening out there? You need to have, beta cells that produce insulin. So then your goal really is to take your master stem cell, and through a combination of different factors, again, we create these unique microenvironments within a dish, so to say, and tell that master stem cell that I want you to become a beta cell, an insulin producing cell. So you're basically altering the fate of that cell to become another cell type.
Amazing.
That is through an addition of chemical cues, physical cues, mechanical cues. So we are still learning a lot about the unique microenvironment for each cell. Right. And once we have a handle of that, we can then recreate that in vitro and then produce the cell type that you want for your own specific treatment.
Amazing. And this question is for so many people who will listen to this conversation. How does the common individual around the world access this amazing technology, and for what? Which means that, are there any proven areas where stem cells technology or therapy can actually be used to cure something?
Yes, yes, indeed. Again, I think one of the things that I think there's a really fascinating website, part of the International Society for Stem Cell Research.
Mm,
I would encourage all viewers to go to that website to find out more about stem cells, to learn more, and
mm,
and to learn about clinical guidelines in place
mm,
that are ethically sound, that have been put together by many in the field to ensure that the technology is used in the right manner, right?
mm,
So in the context of the use itself, right, it is about the relevance of the stem cells for specific treatments. Again, I spoke about some examples where they have been used in the context of bone marrow transplantation.
mm,
Again, it depends on the specific disease. In the context of, repairing bone, repairing musculoskeletal problems, I think there have been some developments that have been made
mm,
where one can use stem cells for those kinds of treatments. There's still a lot that needs to be done in the context of use of stem cells for neurodegenerative diseases,
mm,
use of stem cells for cardiovascular therapies. Like, there's a lot of work that's going into use of stem cells for uh, repairing a broken heart, so to say.
mm,
After heart attacks or myocardial
okay.
infarction, there's a lot of work
Okay.
that's being done, and it's been
Okay.
proven as well. But it's still not there yet. There's a lot of clinical trials that are going on,
Mm,
and it's worth looking into the status of those clinical trials to actually
mm,
find out, the status of those, and some of those are getting to the clinic. Yeah.
mm. There's another belief that a lot of people of my age group seem to be asking, and they're saying that stem cell therapy can actually delay the aging process.
Right.
I'd love to get your perspective.
Right. So, yeah, I think that's an interesting. So the reality is that we are all living longer, right?
Mm,
And that's because of all the significant progress that's been made in biomedical research
correct.
and medicine in general.
Mm,
So aging is a natural part of life, but at the same
correct.
time, the quality of life matters, right?
Mm,
So when we talk about aging, right, it's about, human body is a machine.
correct.
And the cells are doing their job every day,
Mm,
but at the same time, they're going to get cranky. They're going to get old, so to say.
correct.
That
Correct.
happens. So
Correct.
it's not about delaying the aging process. It's about prolonging life, so to say. I would
Mm,
look at it that way.
mm,
So
mm,
how do you go about, and so I think in that context, can you use stem cells for uh, repairing certain lost body parts, or replacing lost body parts, or
mm,
replacing aged body parts, so to say?
mm,
Yes,
mm,
you can do that.
mm,
And that will then ensure that that particular tissue or organ can continue to function more,
mm,
better. So
mm,
at the end of the day, it's all about figuring out ways on how best we can take care of ourselves.
mm,
Can we use cell-based therapies, cell replacement therapies to delay the aging process in that context? The answer is yes.
mm,
But it's about just ensuring that, being aware of which body part requires a little bit of fine tuning, and then can stem cells be used for that? And the answer is yes, we can do that. But again, under safe, ethical
absolutely.
guidelines. Yeah.
Absolutely. Wonderful. So I have time for two more questions for you. My next question is that we've spoken a lot about all the positives of stem cells. What are the potential risks and concerns associated with stem cells?
Yes, that's a very, very important question. So again, well, one of the things that, again, in the context of any therapy, right, there are always going to be some risks associated with it, right?
Mm,
So at least I'm going to talk about a little bit about a type of stem cell that I've worked with for quite a
mm,
while. These are called pluripotent stem cells. These are the master stem cells. And what we do in our labs is that we keep them at a stage where we can grow them indefinitely.
mhm.
They can make more of themselves. Now, if you think about cells that can make more of themselves,
Wow.
the first thing that comes to mind is cancer,
Mm,
right? And the unique properties of pluripotent stem cells is that um, they they go through symmetric cell division, which means when they divide, they give rise to identical daughter stem cells.
mm,
Adult stem cells don't do that. So, for example, I told you about skin stem cells
yeah.
that reside in our skin.
Mm,
When they divide, right, they only give rise to one of themselves and one of a progenitor cell that becomes a differentiate. That's how the balance is maintained. Okay, so they don't divide indefinitely within our cell or tissues. So when we talk about use of stem cells for therapies, we have to ensure that they do not contribute to problems once they are put into the body. But in most cases, most treatment scenarios, the expectation is that we're not going to put those master stem cells into the body. We are actually going to process them in a dish to create progenitor cells or even the differentiated cells, which then will be implanted into the body. But still, when we produce those differentiated cell types, we have to ensure that we don't even have one of that master stem cell residing, because all it takes is one bad actor to create problems once you put them in the body. So I think from a quality control standpoint, there's a lot that's going on in a stem cell biomanufacturing field that I am part of as well, where we figure out ways to develop these processes, to develop these reactors that where we can make the cells, but ensure that the homogeneity of the cells are maintained throughout the process, that they are safe, that they are not altered, that they don't accumulate genetic mutations, which is a big problem as well. So these are some of the things that we have to be concerned about when we talk about use of cells for therapies.
Amazing. And my last question to you, Raj, and this is again for our own understanding. Given how early we are in different stages of stem cells and a lot of it is, as you mentioned, still being researched, are there any policies, how the policymakers and regulators around the world reacting? And are they really wanting to frame regulation for this?
Yes. So again, I think, as I said, I think the most important thing is to ensure that therapies are safe, they are sound. So in fact, the last few years, in the US especially, the FDA has come down very, very strongly on these stem cell clinics that are promoting therapies without safe science, without sound science. And so that's important. So we do need to have regulations in place. We do need to have policies and procedures in place for use of cell-based therapies in the clinic. And so, in fact, again, as I mentioned before, the International Society for Stem Cell Research has come up with some really nice documents on clinical and safety guidelines related to stem cell therapies. And it's important that all countries look at that very carefully to ensure that there's uniformity in how science progresses, and more importantly, how it can be used for a betterment of human health in a manner that's ethical, safe as well.
Wonderful. And before I let you go, you spoke about a website that we should all visit. What is this? Which website is this? Or what is the name of the website?
So there are a couple of websites that I would encourage viewers to go to. One is www.isscr.org.
Okay.
The other one is there's a National Institute of Health website. It's called stemcells.nih.gov.
Okay.
So those are some couple of websites that come to my mind right away that are worth looking at.
And on that note, Raj, for me, this conversation has been an absolute eye-opener. I had very, very little understanding of stem cells. I read a little bit to be able to prepare questions for you. And I think today has been one of the most enlightening conversations I've had over the last 4 years, because not only have I understood a little bit more about stem cells, but you've actually picked my own desire to go and learn a little more. So I will go and visit both the websites, and I will keep on reading a little more. Thank you again for speaking to me, and good luck.
Thank you so much, Ashutosh.
Thank you for listening to the brand called You Videocast and Podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the brand called You.